Hello viewers. Well, you find me here in the middle of Zagreb. In fact, that's the cathedral in Zagreb, quite a famous landmark. And I'm here actually filming for a new video which will be uploaded on my channel soon. It's basically a video promoting the XJW community and XJW websites, but taking a specific look at the word apostates and trying to destigmatize that word a little bit. So that's why I'm here. But I did, just while I'm here, want to do a quick video about the survey, the global survey, because at the beginning of the video and at the end of the video you'll see some brief clips talking about JW survey. And as much as I enjoy doing my own personal videos, really I'm trying to promote that website, which I helped set up in 2011, because it's the host of the global survey of Jehovah's Witnesses, which I want as many people to take part in as possible. And the results are now published for the 2014 global survey, last year's global survey of Jehovah's Witnesses, and I just wanted to run through some of those statistics. So basically we had 5,166 people take part in the global survey, and that figure was made up of active Jehovah's Witnesses, inactive Jehovah's Witnesses, former Jehovah's Witnesses, and those who've just never been baptized, including, for example, teenagers who live in Jehovah's Witness families and they've just not been baptized yet. So they all had a chance to take part. 229 out of that number said that they agree with all Watchtower teachings and practices. Now, interestingly, only 138 of that 229 were active witnesses. So that gives some indication that you don't have to be an active Jehovah's Witness in order to believe the doctrines. You can actually be a former witness, you could be disfellowshipped, and you could still hold on to the indoctrination. 16 voters out of the number who voted claimed to be active Bethelites. Now, who knows? These people could have been pulling a trick or making, having a bit of fun with the survey, but there's at least some remote possibility that there are Bethelites every now and then having a quick look at what's going on. 117 voters claimed to be serving elders. 1,599 voters said they were disfellowshipped or disassociated, and they took part, and 42% of those claimed to be still religious, which I find interesting. So basically 42% of former Jehovah's Witnesses are able to hold on to religion to some degree. The rest, arguably the majority, get rid of religion altogether. They either become atheists or they just stop believing. I think there's a number in there as well who are simply undecided. So that's interesting. I'm sorry about the cameos, by the way. Point a camera anywhere in Zagreb and people will just pop up out of nowhere. Where are we? So 1,603 voters out of the 4,242 baptized voters, so that's everybody who voted who at some stage was baptized, claimed to have been baptized at 18 or older. So that means that only 38% of everyone who took part who at some stage was baptized, only 38% were adults, which seems to indicate that there is certainly a tendency for Jehovah's Witnesses to be baptized when they're not adults. In other words, when they're far more impressionable and open to childhood indoctrination. 1,687 inactive faders voted, of which 63% claim to experience preemptive shunning. I haven't spoken about preemptive shunning that much, but basically it's where you get shunned even though you're still technically a witness, because Jehovah's Witnesses give you kind of like a wide berth because you're deemed bad association. So you can basically be shunned whether you get disfellowshipped or not. 56% of inactive ones claim to experience marital or family problems as a result of their decision. 771 voted who were never baptized. Those are the never baptized voters I told you about, of which 64% had family members who are JWs, and 67% considered Jehovah's Witnesses to be a cult. 39% of elders expressed regret over a decision reached at a judicial committee, so a minority but still a substantial number of elders who felt at some stage during a judicial committee they'd made the wrong decision. 78% of voters, so 78% out of the 5,000 or so, think that Jehovah's Witnesses have a problem with child abuse. 419 voters, this was quite a disturbing statistic, 419 voters on the survey claim to be former witness victims of child abuse. Obviously we have no way of substantiating those claims. Again, this isn't a scientific survey, but it at least indicates that there's hundreds of people just among that 5,000 who were indeed victims of child abuse. 40% of active witness voters said that they would secretly or openly accept a blood transfusion. So 40% of active witness voters would defy the governing body with regards to blood transfusions. 237 voters said that they would let their child die for want of a blood transfusion, only 167 of which were active witnesses. Now I found that a shocking statistic, because it just goes to show that the witness indoctrination, even to its worst, most deadly extreme, can stay with people even when they're no longer a witness. They would still be willing to let their child die through refusing blood, even though they're no longer a witness. 17% of active witnesses who voted believe elders are appointed by Holy Spirit. 32% of elders, slightly more, who voted believe elders are appointed by Holy Spirit. 67% of voters do not believe Watchtower should enjoy charitable or tax-exempt status. Are you watching, Charity Commission? 84% of voters do not donate anything to Watchtower, so the 84% does include disfellowshipped former witnesses, inactive ones, but still quite a high number of people who don't donate anything to Watchtower. 81% of voters have heard of a Jehovah's Witness committing or attempting suicide. That's actually a statistic that sounds very similar to previous surveys that we've done. It's always around the 80% mark of people taking part who say, look, I know of a Jehovah's Witness who's either committed or attempted suicide. Again, doesn't reflect extremely well on the mental health of Jehovah's Witnesses. 33% of voters believe Watchtower should undergo reform, while a further 42% believe it should be dissolved entirely. 21% of witness voters believe apostates are bitter and vindictive, as opposed to 69% who believe some may have legitimate concerns. 169 active witness voters consider themselves to be apostates. So if you think about that, 169 voters who are actual Jehovah's Witnesses, who count time every month, who are counted on the worldwide report, consider themselves to be apostates. So goodness knows how many hundreds or thousands there are on the actual worldwide report who aren't actually Jehovah's Witnesses. They're only staying as witnesses because they're terrified of what will happen if they leave. 52% of those who call themselves apostates say they love Jehovah's Witnesses, while only 2%, 58 individuals who took the survey, say they hate all Jehovah's Witnesses. 53% of active Jehovah's Witnesses object to all forms of shunning, while 11% say they are shunning someone who is either disfellowshipped or inactive. This was interesting. You know, at the end of the survey, I don't know whether you've taken it, but at the end of the survey we have a list of specific teachings that you can say whether you object to them or dislike them. And I always find it interesting to see what the least disliked teaching is. In other words, they're all going to get dislikes, but what's the least disliked teaching? In other words, what's the teaching that the fewest amount of people have a problem with? And consistently it's evolution. So it was the same with the 2014 survey. Evolution as a false teaching was the least disliked Watchtower teaching, with only 62% voting against it. Sorry about the noise, by the way, it's getting busy. The second least disliked Watchtower teaching was the rejection of Christmas as a pagan teaching, and only 63% voted against that. So clearly not as many people have an issue with Watchtower's stance on evolution and Christmas. And finally, the most disliked Watchtower teaching was the prohibition on higher education. I think that's been the case pretty much every year we've done the survey. More people dislike the higher education teaching, including active witnesses, than any other teaching. And that was followed closely by shunning and the bedroom laws for married couples, both at 94%. And in case you don't know about the bedroom laws, that's not quite so much an issue as it was. Sorry, there's a bin lorry going past. That's not quite so much an issue as it was during the 70s, when you could actually be disfellowshipped for having oral sex. But there is definitely still a stigma attached to it, and there are certain things, including oral sex, that witness couples simply will not do in the bedroom, just in case. So I just thought I would take the opportunity to talk you through some of the survey results. If you want to look at them in more detail, you can download the PDF from JW's survey, and by all means pore over them and see what you can discern from them. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And again, look out for this video that we're filming, the collaborative video, because I think you'll find it's going to be something very special. And thank you for watching.